I'm going to the guys trying to tell everybody, break it down, but nobody was listening. They had the blueprint, and it's like, okay.
Meet Memphis Bleek, the very first artist to be signed by Roc-A-Fella Records and a childhood friend to one of the biggest rappers on the planet. Don't get me wrong, he is a legend in his own right, but of course, the people you know are also a part of your success. While most teenagers were trying to find their way, Bleek was already appearing on Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt, officially stepping into hip-hop history before he was even old enough to step into a club. But here's what makes his story different. He wasn't just the sidekick. At just 19 years old, he dropped his debut album, proving he could hold his own in an era dominated by giants. From Marcy projects to multi-platinum stages, from teenage protege to independent mogul, this isn't just a rap story, this is loyalty. This is legacy. And today, we're breaking down the life, career, and untold moments of the man who was there from the very beginning. Let's get into it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Before the fame and fortune, there was a kid named Malik Deshawn Cox, who was born on June 23, 1978, in the heart of Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood. The Marcy houses rise like a maze of red brick and concrete. The Marcy projects are alive with noise, music, and the relentless pulse of city life, shaping the childhood of both Malik and another boy growing up just buildings away, Sean Carter, the future Jay-Z. Their stories began on the same streets, even before they began to intertwine. Inside the Cox family apartment, Malik was drawn to sound. He piled up cassette tapes, taps out rhythms on his knees, and found comfort in the force of hip-hop sweeping through the neighborhood. The streets outside may have been heavy with the challenges of inner-city living, but Malik turned to music instead of trouble. He and a friend began recording tracks in the simplest way possible, using a pair of headphones as a makeshift microphone, driven purely by the desire to create. At home, a small and playful moment gave him part of the identity the world will later recognize. His little sister tried to say Malik, but it came out as Bleek, a nickname that sticks to him effortlessly. As he grew older and began shaping a stage persona, he adds Memphis, later explaining it as a backronym, making easy money, pimping hoes in style, a nod to the bravado and swagger that characterized early hip-hop culture. By the late 1980s and early 1990s, Brooklyn was vibrating with hip-hop's rise. Malik became part of this evolution, freestyling with friends in courtyards and on stoops, sharpening a voice filled with ambition. The music became his compass, a way to navigate the hardships around him and imagine something bigger. He dedicated himself so deeply to rap that school fell away. He eventually left high school to focus on music full-time, though he later returned to earn his GED, a testament to the pride he takes in understanding both the art and the business of his world. Meanwhile, the bond between Malik and Sean Carter continued to grow. They shared not only a neighborhood, but a vision, a hunger for a future built on music rather than the dangers lurking outside their doors. As Jay-Z began crafting his debut album, Malik was never far away. The two young artists supported each other in a way that feels less like mentorship and more like brotherhood. In 1996, that brotherhood becomes history. Inside a recording studio lit by the glow of mixing boards and clouded with late-night focus, Malik steps into the vocal booth to record his verse on Coming of Age for Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. The moment marks Memphis Bleek's first official appearance on a major release, a quiet but powerful entry into the world he had been preparing for since those early makeshift recordings in a friend's room. He supports Jay-Z on stage and in studio sessions, playing the role of hype man, collaborator, and apprentice, absorbing the mechanics of the industry in real time. In 1999, Bleek steps into his first major test, the release of his debut album, Coming of Age. Rolling out under the Rockefeller banner, the project enters the Billboard 200 at number 7, powered by both the label's rising influence and Bleek's growing confidence. The album achieves gold certification and marks him as a credible force in the rap landscape. The momentum continues. In 2000, The Understanding arrives, another gold-certified success that pushes Bleek deeper into hip-hop radio rotations and club speakers. The album features hits like Is That Your Chick?, a track that becomes one of the most recognized records of his career. By this time, Bleek has solidified his place within Rockefeller's inner circle. He appears consistently on Jay-Z's albums, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter, The Dynasty, and The Blueprint 2, reinforcing his role as a central character in one of hip-hop's most influential collectives. His voice becomes part of the Rockefeller soundtrack during the label's explosive rise. In 2003, Bleek releases Made, a record shaped not only by industry momentum but also by personal challenges, including stepping away from the spotlight to care for his older brother after a life-changing motorcycle accident. Still, the album reinforces Bleek's staying power and commitment to the craft. Then, in 2005, he releases 534, named after the building number of the Marcy projects that he and Jay-Z once called home. The album becomes the first release under Jay-Z's new leadership at Def Jam, symbolizing both a return to Marcy roots and a professional evolution for Bleek. But Bleek's ambitions extend beyond the microphone. In 1998, he founds Get Low Records, marking his first major step as an entrepreneur. Years later, in 2016, he launches Warehouse Music Group, signing new artists like Casanova and reinventing himself as a label head who understands the grind from the ground up. Through all of this, Bleek remains a constant presence in hip-hop, a craftsman who may not have chased the spotlight with the same hunger as his mentor, but who built a career defined by loyalty, consistency, and an unmistakable Brooklyn edge. His collaborations with artists like Jay-Z, Missy Elliott, and Beanie Sigel produce lasting hits that fans still remember, from Round Here to My Mind Right. The narrative of Memphis Bleek's professional life is not one of meteoric superstardom, but of endurance, of carving out a lane within one of the most competitive eras in rap. A Rockefeller original, a loyal lieutenant, a hitmaker in his own right, and an executive who never forgot the journey from Marcy's pavement to the studio glow. Bleek rises, not in a single explosive moment, but in sustained momentum. A career built brick by brick, just like the projects that raised him. Next, we would get into his net worth as of 2026. Memphis Bleek is a man whose success isn't measured only in fame, but in endurance, in business moves, and in the legacy of one of hip-hop's strongest alliances. Today, Memphis Bleek's net worth is estimated at $2.5 million, a reflection not only of his years as a Rockefeller lieutenant, but of the businessman he became along the way. The story of that net worth doesn't begin with overnight success. It begins in the gritty corners of Brooklyn, in friends' makeshift studios, and later, in the high-pressure rooms where Roc-A-Fella Records would rise into an empire. Bleek's early albums, Coming of Age, The Understanding, Made, and 534, each pushed him further into hip-hop's economic ecosystem. Though he didn't chase chart-topping superstardom, he built something sturdier: consistency. His first two albums even achieved gold status, creating a foundation of earnings and industry reputation. Memphis Bleek has never pretended to be the richest in the game. Instead, his net worth tells the story of a man who understood loyalty, learned from giants, and built smartly, without ever abandoning the Brooklyn roots that gave him his name, his grit, and his grind. Unto his home. There is nothing much to say, but oh well. For Memphis Bleek, a kid from Brooklyn's Marcy projects, real estate wasn't always about ownership. Sometimes it was about possibility, the kind that appears suddenly, shines brightly, and disappears just as fast. It happened years ago, long before Jay-Z became a billionaire mogul. Bleek remembers the call like it was yesterday. Jay told him he was moving out of a stunning two-story Manhattan penthouse, not selling it, not listing it, giving it to Bleek. The place was already paid off. All Bleek would owe were the taxes. It was as close to being handed a dream home as anyone could imagine. But dreams can turn quickly in the world of business, even between brothers. Days after the offer, Jay-Z called Bleek again. Another buyer had come forward, offering an irresistible $4 million for the penthouse. And just like that, the gift evaporated. Jay kept it honest. I love you, but not more than $4 million. The tone isn't bitter. Bleek tells the story with the kind of grin only earned from decades of brotherhood, the kind where you can laugh at what might have been. It was never about the keys, it was about the gesture, the moment, the recognition. Memphis Bleek never moved into that penthouse, but the story became part of his legacy, retold across podcasts, interviews, and timelines. A glimpse into the real estate world of hip-hop royalty, not through ownership, but through the near miss that says just as much about the journey. In the end, the house was never his, but the story? That belongs to Memphis Bleek forever. There are no recent reports of any estates or mansions. All that is known is he is primarily associated with Brooklyn, New York, where he grew up in the Marcy projects. While historically tied to NYC, recent reports from late 2025 and early 2026 show him traveling and spending time in Italy and Paris. Next up is his car collection, which I really hoped would make up for the scanty real estate portfolio. But even that is scanty. Or should I say, scantier. The only verified information is that his lifestyle coverage mentions he has a car collection, but no details are given about which cars he owns or their values. Let us see if he possesses some valuable bling. Because in the world of hip-hop, jewelry is more than metal and diamonds. It is memory. It is lineage. It is legacy forged in brilliance. Among Memphis Bleek's possessions, one piece stands above all. A diamond-encrusted Roc-A-Fella chain gifted to him by Jay-Z. Not for an album release, not for a business deal, but for the 25th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt, the project that shaped their brotherhood. Hip-hop history remembers the Roc chain as a badge of belonging, but for Bleek, this particular piece carries deeper weight. It is a reminder of the years when he and Jay-Z moved in sync, from coming of age to stadium stages, from Marcy's corners to industry boardrooms. When it comes to luxury possessions, Bleek isn't quite in the room with us. Or could I say, he is super private about stuff like this? Well, let's see if there is something worth talking about in his private life. His upbringing in Brooklyn's inner-city landscape shaped his early worldview, grounding him in a setting where community, resilience, and ambition were daily necessities. Growing up in a close-knit family, he benefited from the presence of a supportive mother and an environment that encouraged expression. Hip-hop surrounded him from an early age, serving as both an outlet and an education as he absorbed the rhythm of block culture and the emerging sound of New York's rap scene. A crucial part of Bleek's early personal life was his bond with Sean Jay-Z Carter. Although his public identity became tied to this musical legacy, his roots remained firmly planted in the values of loyalty, family, and the community that raised him. Personal responsibility has also played a defining role in his life. At one point, Bleek stepped away from music to care for his older brother after a severe motorcycle accident, an act that reflected his deep sense of family duty and willingness to prioritize loved ones over career momentum. This period reinforced how central family has always been to his identity, well beyond his public image. In 2014, Memphis Bleek married his longtime partner, Ashley Coombs, marking a new chapter rooted in partnership and stability. Their relationship, celebrated within the hip-hop community, is described as strong, loving, and grounded in mutual respect. Together, they are parents to 2 children, and their home life reflects a commitment to creating a nurturing, supportive environment. Ashley, who has an accomplished academic and personal background, has remained a steady presence in Bleek's life, contributing to the balance he maintains between public responsibilities and private fulfillment. As Bleek matured, his personal life expanded beyond music into entrepreneurship and new creative ventures. He embraced roles as a businessman and media personality, launching his podcast, Rock Solid, where he reflects on lessons learned over decades in the industry. His growing list of ventures, including restaurant and hospitality investments, shows an evolution from artist to multi-dimensional figure, with his personal life and ambitions now intertwined with broader entrepreneurial goals. Through these endeavors, he continues to uphold the values instilled in him since childhood: persistence, growth, and meaningful connection. Today, Memphis Bleek's life is defined by a balance of family devotion, lifelong friendships, entrepreneurial ambition, and the wisdom of experience. From a Brooklyn childhood shaped by culture and adversity to a stable family life supported by a loving marriage and children, his journey reflects a continuous evolution, always rooted in the foundation that shaped him. And that brings us to the end of this deep dive into the life of Memphis Bleek, an artist shaped by Brooklyn, strengthened by family, and defined by loyalty, growth, and evolution. From his beginnings in the Marcy projects to becoming a dedicated husband, father, entrepreneur, and storyteller, his journey reminds us that success isn't only measured in charts and accolades, but in the life you build beyond the spotlight. If you enjoyed exploring the man behind the music, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you don't miss our next story. Drop a comment below and let us know which part of Bleek's journey inspired you the most. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more stories that go beyond the fame and into the heart of the legacy.